This document is not part of any official police report. It was compiled from archived files, dismissed testimonies, and notes that were never meant to be reviewed again. The name Evelyn Frank appears repeatedly. Evelyn was 22 years old. She worked nights as a mime in local bars. According to co-workers, she only wore makeup during performances. Outside of work, she dressed plainly and spoke very little. Not as an act, she was insecure and uncomfortable speaking, especially around strangers. She lived with her parents until she moved out on her own. There is no record of a major argument. A neighbor later stated that it seemed less like rebellion and more like quiet exhaustion. Evelyn rented a small room near downtown, close enough to walk home after late shifts. That is where she met the musician. He played guitar in several bars where Evelyn performed. He wasn't particularly well known, but he was consistent. They shared smoke breaks behind buildings and slow walks home after closing time. He talked constantly. Evelyn mostly listened. No one ever reported seeing them argue. Eventually, they began meeting outside of work, always at the same place, the East Pier. It was not a scenic location. It was poorly lit, rarely patrolled, and usually empty at night. They would sit near the edge, smoke, and watch the water. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. It became routine. The night of the incident followed that routine. The musician told Evelyn they would meet at the pier after work. He didn't explain why. Evelyn didn't ask. She arrived close to midnight. Most of the lights along the pier were off. From a distance, she noticed movement near the edge, several figures standing close together. At first, she assumed they were fishermen. As she got closer, she realized they weren't. The musician was on his knees. His posture was tense, his movements unsteady. 3 men stood around him. They weren't shouting. One spoke quietly, another held his arm. The third stood near the edge of the pier, looking down at the water instead of at him. Evelyn stopped walking. According to later reconstructions, one of the men struck the musician in the face. He fell sideways and tried to get back up. The second man pushed him toward the edge. The third man finished it. The fall was not clean. His body struck the wooden edge before hitting the water. There was a short splash. No scream. He did not resurface. Evelyn stepped back. That was when one of the men noticed her. They didn't look surprised. They exchanged a brief glance, as if confirming a decision, and then moved quickly. They grabbed Evelyn by the arms and dragged her beneath the pier into the structure of metal and wooden beams. From above, nothing could be seen. Below, the sound of the water covered everything. They shoved her against one of the beams. She fell. When she tried to stand, they hit her again. There is no precise record of how long this lasted. Medical notes suggest it was not brief. One of the men asked her what she had seen. Evelyn tried to answer. The words didn't come out. Not only because of fear, she had never been good at speaking under pressure. This seemed to irritate them. The knife appeared afterward. It was not used as a threat. It was a decision. The cut was irregular. The medical report describes severe bleeding, but no immediate fatal damage. She lost consciousness. The men left her there and fled. Several hours later, a dock worker found her alive. She was unable to speak. She repeatedly pointed at the water, then at her mouth. The musician's body was never recovered. Without a verbal testimony, the investigation quickly weakened. No arrests were made. After several months, the case was archived. Evelyn Frank survived. She never returned to the bars. She never worked as a mime again. During the day, she was rarely seen. At night, reports began to surface. A fisherman claimed that a woman sat motionless on the pier for hours the night before a man drowned nearby. A night guard stated that a mime appeared beneath a streetlight, silently reenacting the movements of someone suffocating in water. When he approached, she was gone. A prostitute working near the harbor gave a more detailed statement. She said she saw a woman standing beneath a lamppost, without makeup, her clothes damp, staring at the water. Assuming she was another worker waiting for a client, the prostitute approached and tried to speak to her. The woman raised her hand, 2 fingers pressed over her lips. Then she pointed toward the pier. The prostitute reported a sudden pressure in her chest, as if her breathing had been interrupted. When she blinked, the woman had disappeared. That same week, a regular client from the area was found dead near the water. No signs of violence were reported. The cause of death was listed as accidental drowning. The prostitute stopped working near the harbor shortly afterward. All testimonies describe the same gesture, the same location, the same silence. Evelyn Frank never spoke again. It appears she no longer needs to.